Hello, my name is Paul Szymanski, and I'm going to talk to you about a very critical subject, at least in the modern era of outer space warfare, something that I've been doing for the past 49 years. This is just a summary briefing. I have very extensive briefings that take 1 to 2 hours. I actually have 20 or 30 different briefings if you ever want me to give you more details. So, about me, 49 years experience in this area. Some have called me the father of space warfare doctrine. Others have said I'm one of the first real life space mercenaries like Boba Fett, since I go around the world and help allied countries plan for fighting and winning space wars. I've published, it's up to, I guess, 140 times now in the last few years in Aviation Week, various military journals, journals around the world. I've given lectures time and time again. I think it's about 15 different countries around the world right now. In my publications, my theories and doctrine, strategy and tactics is actually required reading in some United States space officer training schools. So, and I'll mention that I have a very large, it's close to 24,000 members, space warfare unclassified discussion group on LinkedIn. You're welcome to join that if you wish. So, introduction to space warfare. Now, it's important to show that there's space warfare is not too dissimilar to terrestrial warfare. You still have the human minds, whether it's ancient Greek warfare or futuristic warfare, it's still human mind versus human mind. And, there's some important things you can learn from history. For example, Sun Tzu, ancient Chinese philosopher over 2,000 years ago, stating that strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. And my perception is that people seem mostly interested in tactics when it comes to space warfare. But space, by definition, is strategic. The satellites cover the world. It's not really one theater. So you really have to think of the implications of what you are doing in space. So there's many different space threats and ways to attack satellites. I won't go through all the details here. This is just a quick summary. But if you had a potential targeted satellite, the latest in thing are these manipulator, maintenance, repair, rendezvous and proximity operations, inspector satellites, whatever you want to call them. And some of them have manipulator arms on them. You can go against the satellite, you can go against the ground station, the links, or even the supply chain, for the satellite. Now, there's been space wars at least since the 1970s. I count about 10. There's probably more than that. You can just see, by reading the tea leaves with my experience. But it goes back to ancient Roman times, actually. There was a lot of different concepts, a lot of different nuclear anti-satellites. There was actually a Russian space cannon. You could look it up if you click on these links. I was part of the F-15 anti-satellite program at the Pentagon, and the program element monitor told me it was just a negotiating chip for the Russian kinetic ASAT. Here's some Russian anti-satellite concepts. Futuristic, or this looks more like the Frank Tinsley kind of thing. And there's many ways to do space warfare. If you seal off a country from access to its satellites, you've done the same thing. And this is what was accomplished in Desert Storm. Now, there's been all kinds of previous space wars and incidents. I can go over all these in detail, but not in this briefing. Just ask me for more of that. But it's something that has been happening, will be happening, and even more seriously in the future. For example, there was a major attack on Russian GLONASS satellites in 2014 due to the Ukrainian conflict or pre-conflict back then. This is just showing you the attack on GLONASS that this is a user in the red dot here in England, and his use of a GLONASS receiver showed that he was tens of kilometers off in the English Channel. That's what the attack was. And then there was a major incident in 2017 that in space forced, so to speak, the establishment of the United States Space Force. I was in France, Lyon, France, a year and a half ago, and two lieutenant colonels in the French Air and Space Force described to me that incident. And I want to emphasize too that warfare is the same. It's still between human minds, and adversary commanders are forcing the other side their will on them, the resolve, intent, and so forth by using uh, soldiers, sailors, Marines, guardians, and their equipment, essentially. And even the ancient Greeks understood this, that it's not the objective of war to annihilate the other side, but to cause them to mend their ways. And I've realized in my late age that really you're not even fighting the conflict as much as you're fighting the peace. You're fighting geopolitical realignments afterwards. So that has to be kept in mind, especially for space since it's so politically volatile. Um, the kinds of weapons you might use, if you create debris, you've got a real problem after the conflict. So you got to keep all that in mind. Also, a lot of people say, oh, we shouldn't have war in space and all this, but it's already happened and you can't stop it anymore. And this is a quote that, you might not be interested in war, but war is interested in you and it's going to bite you. And space is way too important to be ignored one way or the other. So I've done a lot of work. I've got about 30 different briefings on it, like what are the foundational military doctrine for space, translated from ancient and current terrestrial doctrine. I've been through about 1/3 of Sun Tzu's precepts for terrestrial conflict, and I've come up with close to 700 space um, courses of action and possible ways, tactics and strategies and so forth. I have a briefing on the top 40 rules of space conflict, principles of space war, what happens if satellite comes up close to you, like you're seeing here, the model I put together, one satellite coming in, attacking another. There's space escalation ladders. It's very important to control escalation in space. What are the possible rules of engagement? I've taken air defense doctrine and extended that to the space environment. So we have space defense zones like air defense zones. What are the DEFCON levels for space? I developed several thousand new space icons according to the MIL standard so that we can have situational maps that look just like terrestrial maps. So it's easy to understand. And I have all kinds of space visualization techniques. I'll show you some examples of that. But under space battle management planning, I have all these different lists of things, and actually thousands of examples that I've come up with of courses of action, centers of gravity, um, levels of war, deterrent options, tactics, and so forth. Now, space is unique in one sense. It's global. A lot of people think tactical only, but everything you do there, even if it feels tactical, has global consequences. And it's highly political, though it's hidden from public view, so you can get away with a lot. The pedestrian in the street's not going to know that you've been done certain things, and this has happened in the past. Um, and then there's, you know, you have to plan for after the conflict that if you lose, maybe your allies won't think you're so strong, but if you win, and you win, let's say badly, creating debris or something like that, or attacking uh, let's say third country satellites that maybe your adversary is using. It could be new space treaties. You could lose allies. There's a lot of implications you've got to understand when you're planning attacks or even pre-planning development of space weapon system. So how to win a war? Situational awareness, space domain awareness. That's true terrestrially too. Knowing your adversary, what are his plans? Are they about to attack you? Pre-conflict positioning. You cannot move satellites fast enough. Most space wars are over within 24 to 48 hours in my simulations, and you can't maneuver around. So you have to play with what you got right there. You have to have effective doctrine. even have to define winning. Both sides can say, we won. I took out all your communication satellites. No, I took out all your weather satellites or imagery satellites. Who won? I don't know. Uh, and then emphasizing the strategic and political post-war consequences and how to lose the space war. You self-deter. You sit there and say, gee, my satellite stopped working. I don't know why. Oops, 24 hours later, it's gone. It's over with. You didn't, you lost it in your own mind. You're in the wrong position. Was it a war in the Western Pacific? Was it a war over Europe? Satellites are optimized for certain locations. You ignored the future political impacts. Maybe you lost on the ground. You got all these cool space weapons, but they did a combined arms attack and attacked your banking system and stopped you from whatever you're doing in space as a threat. Uh, these are all kinds of issues. Oh, by the way, this is my personal real life space ray gun I developed. That 7-watt laser that will catch your furniture on fire across the room in a fraction of a second. At any rate, that was just a small summary of my larger brief, and that, like I say, goes on for hours. But if you have additional questions, you can reach me at my email, national@policy.space. I'm also on LinkedIn. I also have several books publishing, and one has published already on Amazon that looks at international perceptions of outer space warfare. So if you got any additional questions, just contact. Thank you for your time.